What's going on, everybody? It's Keith from Accounted For. Good to see you again. Wanted to share with you, bring back Travis Robbins. Not only is a pal of mine, but he's a client of Accounted For, and he's an owner and entrepreneur and innovator inside of the physical therapy world. Wanted to just announce that Travis, you wrote a new book and it's coming out soon. Say hello to everyone. Tell them what you're
Yeah,
building.
innovator. That's the nicest thing I've been called this week. So I just want to thank Keith for that. Some of you guys might recognize me. It's Buffalo Bills season, so maybe I didn't have my Bills hat on. I just so you know, we just wear this around the house until they lose. But if I look a little bit different, that's why. But I came and I told you guys about an event that we did in Seattle. That was awesome. If you guys have never been to Seattle, it's a really great town. We're gonna go back out there probably in the fall again. And it's an event about improving profitability in your practice. So if you're a private practice owner, this is for you. If you're not a private practice owner, you can still buy the book. It's great resources in there, but probably specific more to physical therapists in that we took all the information that we've been doing in consulting for the last 6 years and all these live events, and we've opened up a billing company because we saw a ton of inefficiency there. We've taken all this stuff and put what we've learned into a book. And the book is really, it's almost like a workbook. So you fill it out. There's over 30 video trainings in there. And it's focused on this 5-step system that we came up with to fix any metric in your practice. That's what you can use it for. So if you want to fix your arrival rate, your successful graduation rate, any metric in your practice, you can use it there. But what we do as a billing and collections company is we focus on units per visit and revenue per visit because it's the quickest way to get wins inside of a practice. And we were talking before that we hit record here about, decreasing reimbursements and how that is kind of forcing owners to kind of take on more work and how much work it takes to run a private practice. You got to treat all week and then run a business on top of that. And what we find with our clients is if we can remove them from treatment and get them to work on the business instead of in it, which again, I'm sure you guys have heard that term a ton, then it gets easier. The struggle is removing yourself because you're generating revenue. And if you take out one of the generators of revenue, you got to replace that. And guess what? That costs more money. So we said, what is the quickest way we can get people to realize that we've got to find a way to remove them from treating and is to increase the revenue per visit. So all of a sudden, as your revenue goes up, you can kind of have some breathing room. And then it's like, oh, okay, I've got this extra revenue that I can put aside and I can replace myself in the schedule. And then when you remove yourself from treatment, boom, like everything starts to fly. So that was kind of the concept of the book. So it's a really quick read, it's about 120 pages, ton of video in there in terms of education, a lot of stuff from live events that we've done in the past. If you've never been to a live event of ours before, there's going to be access to that. Tons of PDFs, tons of really important things, self-assessments that we do. There's 4 self-assessments in there, which I've found to be a really important concept. So when I onboard a coaching client, I will send them some self-assessments and I'll be like, okay, here's my score based on these questions. And it kind of, for me, it gives me information about where they're at, but for you, it gives realization to like, oh, there's some of these things that maybe I need to work on. And the book is designed to, based on how you score in those self-assessments, it gives you next action steps. And I know, Keith, you read a ton of books, and I'm sure you've probably been guilty of this in the past. I know I have. I read a book, I'm like, great idea, and then I don't apply it. So my idea with this book was to make it impossible for you to not apply it. So when you get to the end of the chapter, there's things you have to check off in order to make sure you can move on to the next stage. So it's kind of like a course in a book, and it really is, the result of the last 6 years of consulting that we've done with private practices all over the US. And about 3 years ago, kind of starting our own billing and collections company because we saw there's a huge inefficiency in private practices.
Yeah, yeah. So, quick question for you. Um, so many people have so much more information coming at them, and so it's. I know for me, I love reading books. I've got between my Audible account and my nightstand, I've got all the books I could possibly want to read for the next 6 months, and no time to do it. When it comes to business, though, like you said, I love reading because even though I might not implement all the good ideas, I always walk away with a nugget or two that I could apply, or at least I think I start applying right away. In terms of what you've seen in the work you've done building up to the book, can you offer up an example of what I'll call low hanging fruit? What's one of the maybe most common areas or disciplines that the book will help address in terms of maybe the most common challenge or obstacle that most of the PT owners out there are facing?
I would probably say holding your teammates accountable. So that could be really tough. In small private practices, it's a very intimate setting. You're not working at Apple where there's 5,000 employees that are in your building, right? So it's very difficult to course correct when someone is not doing things the way that you need to get them done. So you either, as the owner, you just do it yourself, or you put up with it and try to clean up the mess afterwards. So one of the steps in that 5-step process is accountability. So it teaches you how to set up accountability in your organization. Most of it is through a one-on-one. So if you're not doing one-on-ones at least once a month with all of your direct reports, then it's going to be difficult for you to hold them accountable to hitting certain numbers in their practice. And I think we get sometimes get some fear or pushback from owners like, oh man, I'm going to have to put them on a scoreboard and then we're going to compare them to everybody else in the organization. What if somebody's at the bottom? Are their feelings going to get hurt? And the first thing I say is this isn't youth soccer, right? This is a business. Like this is a profession, and we've got to hold people accountable. The second thing I say is these PTs have been held accountable since they were in high school. Like you could not get into physical therapy school without a very high GPA. Okay, so that's undergrad. When you go to apply to graduate school, I mean, if you don't have a 3.5, don't even bother applying now. It's like impossible to get in. So these physical therapists that you're working with have been held accountable to standards for a very long time in the form of GPA and testing. It's not going to be that odd for them to hold them accountable to units per visit, revenue per visit, arrival rate, all the main metrics that you have in your practice. So to answer your question, I think the difficulty becomes, hey, you're not where we expect you to be standard wise. Like your arrival rate is 78%. Everybody else is 92. Like what is going on there? And you've got to improve that. I think they kind of shy away from that. So systems that we teach in the book, and there's a couple really like 13 steps to change, like how to implement change in your practice and how to hold people accountable. Those are probably two of the most valuable videos that are in there.
You know, it's interesting you say that because from a coaching perspective, I always enjoy the reframe, right? And it's one of those things where even working with you and your team, the idea of when a patient comes in, a new patient comes in, to have that conversation, and I'm thinking I'm like changing lanes into the clinician conversations, right? Those one-on-ones. Ask the question, how do you see this work that we're doing together moving you forward in your life, right? Because to me, I see the opportunity inside of the private practice world, and I would think that by helping a clinician become more accountable with the business metrics would help them become a better physical therapist or maybe even their own private practice owner in the future. Wouldn't that empower them just as much as give the current private practice owner a stronger foothold to grow the company and get out from underneath it?
Yeah, especially so for those that don't know me, like all my clinical directors run the clinics. I really don't have a ton of decision-making power there. I meet with them once a week in our leadership team meeting, which we go over in the book, and they kind of handle everything. So that doesn't happen unless we have some form of open book management because and some kind of bonus structure and some kind of incentive to if the clinic performs better, then everybody else gets better. If you don't have that, you're going to constantly struggle with turnover. Someone gets a job for, 50 cents more an hour, like they're going to leave. There's no kind of like identity to the place that they work and not a lot of work engagement because they don't know everything that's behind the scenes. In the beginning, that's another thing that practice owners are really scared of. Open my books, they're going to see my P&L, they're going to see how much revenue that's coming in. And it's universal. I've never seen this go badly in the coaching clients that we have. As soon as they open the books and they see, because if they don't see the books, they think you have like 6 boats and 4 vacation houses. They have no idea how little most practices make in margin. So once you open that up, it's like, wow, I really like to work here. I want this place to continue. I see the numbers. If we're losing money every week, like eventually there's not going to be enough money to make payroll. So that doesn't mean that everybody has to kind of get behind the whole revenue thing and say, hey, we've got to like really drive revenue and profit. But it does kind of pick up a little bit. It's like, hey, I like this job. I like the people I work with. If we can improve our arrival rate and our revenue goes up, that's a good thing. Guess what? Everything else gets better. The more patients come in for physical therapy, the more frequently they come in, the more consistently they come in, the better they get, the better outcomes the patients get. And that's what everybody wants. So it is really cool how this stuff goes together. Improving the metrics in your practice, even the financial ones, will lead to better results on the floor. And that's what every physical therapist wants. They want wins with their patients. That's still, to me, when I do go back and cover a vacation or something, it's still fun to me to get a win in the clinic. It's like someone came in in, they're feeling like crap. We did a manual technique or a set of exercises or some kind of modality, and they left and they said, you know what? I feel better. Like that's still to me in my career, and I've been doing this for 25 years. That's still a win for me. So that the stuff in this book, I don't want everybody to think it's just about business. It's about your whole practice and improving everything.
Nice, nice. Well, we're gonna have a link to the book in this email. So reach out to me. I'll introduce you to Travis if you want to know more. But in the meantime, Travis, thank you so much for this. Congratulations on the book launch, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Keith.
Bye, buddy.